Hello Eternum and welcome to KOTT News, Eternum's #1 source for news, and this is the War Report. Dynamic change in the history of Eternum last night as the forces of the Censored reclaimed the northernmost region of Morningdale. KOTT news crews were on the scene in Morningdale as the victors celebrated in the ceremonial hot tub. We also caught up with an appointed factional representative to speak on behalf of Syndicate leadership. Oh, actually, that looks really good right there. Congratulations on your victory up here in Morningdale. Only took about 20 minutes. How do you feel it went? Would you care to take us through it?
Yeah, it was an absolutely amazing fight. The army that we've been practicing to build up did a fantastic job. Everyone put in the hard work and dedication to improve themselves, and we definitely saw the outcome this fight.
Fantastic. Any particular efforts out there you might like to highlight?
I'd like to highlight all the group leaders as well as Haldir for really putting in the time and effort to just work on improving everyone in our guild as well as every one of our allies.
Are you prepared for the Festival of the Campfire coming up on the 28th?
You know it, I'm already sharpening my marshmallow sticks.
There was celebrating in the streets of Windsward last night as well as live performers entertained the masses after their victory. And a new fad is hitting the streets, and it's called stop motion. What is it? And are your kids doing it? Full story at 11. Turning to the weather, and what's it gonna be today with the sun, okay? I guess it's straight up into space. After which, cold fronts will push corruption forces down into the island along the northern border regions. KOTT News would like to remind its subscribers of the second annual Festival of the Campfire coming this September 28th. Come revisit the early days of the island by setting your campsite outside of town and reminisce about what the Festival of the Campfire means to you. Another roster submission for Simulated Fantasy Combat Resolution tonight, brought to you by LARPco. Remember,
if it's not LARPco, it's cardboard.
Tonight, the Marauders of Dragoon Heathens assault the Zealots of Trapchat for control of the bear-infested deep forests of Brightwood. Dragoon Heathens return for their third attempt to secure land on the island, and this time, they're bringing a new lineup to a new region. The Defenders of Trapchat have held the hamlet since securing it after the megastorm 2 months ago. They're sure to continue putting in the effort tonight. We'll have the outcomes and reactions from the citizens tonight at 11. Until then, this has been War Correspondent JChalant, KOTT News. Hello Eternum and welcome to KOTT News, Eternum's #1 source for news, and this is the War Report. No change in the dynamic of Eternum last night as the Zealots of Trapchat hold off the marauding forces and retain control of the bear-infested deep forest of Brightwood. KOTT News were late on the scene last night, so were unable to secure confirmation from leadership about final funding for the cathedral. More on that story as it develops. Quickly to the weather, and once again the sun flies across the Eternum sky, keeping corruption at bay. But look out after sunset as the temperatures drop and a 30% chance of invasion will arise in some coastal regions. Yet another submission for Simulated Fantasy Combat Resolution tonight. Brought to you by LARPco. Remember, if it isn't LARPco, it's cardboard. Tonight, it's the Syndicate Great House of the Censored, assailing the Covenant forces of Tropical X for control of First Light and the flow of the spice. Censored forces get out of the hot tub refreshed and ready for more, quickly influencing another region and preparing to return to war. The Great House of Tropical X stands ready to defend their new beachfront home. They have no intentions of giving up the Fairweather hamlet, not with the Festival of the Campfire coming up. We'll have any late-breaking outcomes and reactions from the citizens tonight at 11. Until then, this has been War Correspondent JChalant, KOTT News. Hello Eternum and welcome to KOTT News, Eternum's #1 source for news, and this is the War Report. No change in the dynamic of Eternum last night as the forces of Tropical hold B Point for 20 minutes and retain control of the spice-rich region of First Light. KOTT News were on the scene and noted the mercenary payout line was quite short. we caught up with Tropical leadership to ask about their most recent rosters.
You know what? It was actually kind of like a family affair because people that used to be with us came back to join us. People we used to fight with came back to join us. People who we fought with together to keep Readersfin up on Camelot came and fought with us. It was a lot of fun.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. It looked like it was a tough one after about 8 minutes in when it turned into a 50-50 on the main point there, right?
Yeah, we overextended and they took advantage and they got the second point and we just had a 50v50, which I think was more fun. Haldir had a 100% all his crew. So good for them practicing doing something. So it was just a really good time.
Are you looking forward to the Festival of the Campfire coming up on the 28th?
Sure am. Got mine ready.
KOTT News would like to remind its subscribers of the second annual Festival of the Campfire coming this September 28th. Come revisit the early days of the island by setting your campsite outside of town and reminisce about what the Festival of the Campfire means to you. Turning to the weather, and it's going to be a burner all day long as the sun blazes across the sky. Then after sunset, a familiar magnetic confluence of corruption invasion will arise along the polar tips. Another submission for Simulated Fantasy Combat Resolution tonight, brought to you by LARPco. Remember, if it isn't LARPco, it's cardboard. Tonight as a nightcap, the Covenant forces of Here Be Monsters assail the Marauders of Yig Dodgers for control of the master fishing port town of Reekwater. Here Be Monsters, getting their legs under them, launch a skiff assault on the hamlet of Reekwater, seeking to secure a port to call home. Yig Dodgers' forces continue to split their attention between two territories on the island, but with no invasions forecast, they'll be fully committed. Be sure to tune in for complete coverage and reactions from the citizens tonight at 11. Until then, this has been War Correspondent JChalant, KOTT News. Hello, Eternum, and welcome to KOTT News, Eternum's #1 source for news. And this is the War Report. Dynamic change in the history of Eternum last night as the forces of Here Be Monsters capture the master fishing port town of Reekwater. We spoke with Here Be Monsters leadership about the fight and the recent shortfalls in fishing production for the hamlet. Great work out there tonight. Congratulations, man. In the final moments, you guys get in there and get it done. How do you feel about it?
Oh, we feel great. It was good competition. You know, they gave us their all. But in the end of the day, we had some great helps from some great friends, and we're able to get it done. I'm very happy.
Is there anyone whose efforts out there you might like to highlight?
Yes, I have to give it to my governor, Buchamma, who was barking in my ear during calls on what to do, and all my great friends. But Goody was a beast as always, and all of our friends, Pad Sucks, Gabrielle Salang, all helped us. So I'm very thankful for all of them.
High praise indeed. Can you tell me now that you have control of the hamlet what your intentions are for it?
Yeah, you know, this place is called Reekwater, so we've suspected that there's been some kind of a sewage issue for some time. So we're really going to look to focus on building up the infrastructure and making sure that there's good, clean water for everybody here.
Civic responsibilities at its finest. Will you be able to participate in the Festival of the Campfire coming up September 28th?
Absolutely. We can't wait for it. We're so excited. Everybody come out September 28th for the campfire.
KOTT News would like to remind its subscribers of the second annual Festival of the Campfire coming this September 28th. Come revisit the early days of the island by setting your campsite outside of town and reminisce about what the Festival of the Campfire means to you. Refugees continue to swim to the island, looking for a place to call home, like this ambitious new marauder we met in Restless Shore. Welcome to the island. What brings you here? Did you just come on shore recently?
Currently just doing some marauder questing, so I can take over this island for myself.
Have you been able to fight back any of the corruption while you've been here?
No, I'm too weak right now.
Too busy trying to take over the island? While marauders will maraud, zealots will fight off the corruption, wherever it may spawn, like this week's Citizen of the Week. Turning to the weather, and once again, the sun will swing back and forth across the sky of Eternum, keeping corruption at bay. But look out after sundown, as an eastern typhoon will break land, giving rise to a 30% chance of corrupted invasions. 2 roster submissions for Simulated Fantasy Combat Resolution tonight, brought to you by LARPco. Remember, if it isn't LARPco, it is cardboard. First up, the Covenant forces of Spaderverse assault the Syndicate forces of the Censored for control of the northernmost territory of Morningdale. Spaderverse leadership avoided questions immediately following their declaration of war, but it's almost certain their intentions are to secure their sacred land near the northern death wall. Censored forces captured the region just 4 days ago. Was that enough time to prepare for a fight? We'll find out tonight. In the nightcap, it's Grid versus Yig as the Covenant forces of Grid sends his regards attack the Marauders of Yig Dodgers for Crown and Kingdom of the Western Monarch's Bluff. With this declaration by the newcomers, inquiring minds want to know, who is Grid, where are they now, and do they plan on sending more than formal greetings to the Bluff? The forces of Yig Dodgers fight on back-to-back nights. After having lost Reekwater in a nail-biter, they're sure to be tired, but angry, tonight. We'll have the outcomes and reactions from the citizens tonight at 11. Until then, this has been War Correspondent JChalant, KOTT News. Hello, Eternum, and welcome to KOTT News, Eternum's #1 source for news. And this is the War Report. No change in the dynamic of Eternum last night as the forces of Yig Dodgers accept Grid's kindest regards, sending the envoy away with parting gifts. And the Syndicate forces of the Censored keep control of the hot tub and maintain the forward observation post of Morningdale. KOTT News caught up with a Censored representative after the fight and got their immediate reactions. Well, congratulations on your victory, my friend, out here holding the forward northern observation post of Morningdale yet again. How do you feel it went out there tonight?
We felt like we played really good. We had a really good showing tonight. They had a really good roster, and we're really happy with our performance. We had a little bit of things here and there that we want to clean up, but for the most part, I think we did really well.
Is there anybody whose outfits out there you might want to highlight?
As always, Haldir did a great job calling everything. Troubled was awesome. Troubled was amazing in this war. Every time that we had trouble area we needed help with, Troubled was there, taking care of it. So I'm going to give a shout out to him for sure.
I'll be sure. Props to Troubled et al. Tell me, are you going to be ready for the Festival of the Campfire coming up on the 28th?
I'll be there. That sounds like a fun time.
KOTT News would like to remind its subscribers of the second annual Festival of the Campfire coming this September 28th. Come revisit the early days of the island by setting your campsite outside of town and reminisce about what the Festival of the Campfire means to you. In between matchups, KOTT News crews were volunteering in the spice fields when an unlikely hero emerged from the fog.
Coming to help you.
For their efforts in preventing the spread of corruption in First Light, Krugs is awarded this week's Citizen of the Week. Turning to the weather, and once again the sun will stroll across the southern tip of the island, barely willing to get out of bed, which will cause an arid dust storm from the northwest to obscure the island and give rise to a 30% chance of corruption invasion. Yet another lineup submitted for Simulated Fantasy Combat Resolution tonight. Brought to you by LARPco. Remember, if it isn't LARPco, it's cardboard. Tonight, the Marauders of Definitely Not a Shell Company attack the Covenant forces of Trapchat for control of the bear-infested deep forests of Brightwood. The Marauders of Definitely Not a Shell fly the banner of Nirvana and execute one of the most basic of Marauder strategies to induce confusion and overconfidence. But the forces of Trapchat are well trained and keep their strategy simple, regardless of attacker. For them, the bigger the fight, the longer the payout line at the end of the night. Be sure to tune in for complete coverage and reactions from the citizens at 11. Until then, this has been War Correspondent JChalant, KOTT News. Hello, Eternum, and welcome to KOTT News, Eternum's #1 source for news. And this is the War Report. Dynamic change in the history of Eternum last night as the forces of Please Buy a House Here capture the bear-infested deep forests of Brightwood. KOTT News crews caught up with Nirvana leadership after their invasion defense in Windsward and went over the battle.
I will say that it was definitely our hardest war yet. Trap Chat is a super hard foe, and I honestly have to shout out their Dex team and kill squads because they're actually really hard to kill. So shout out Dagavaran, his wife's having a kid, so shout out him. Shout out Octaves for shot calling like always. Yeah, super good war.
KOTT News would like to remind its subscribers of the second annual Festival of the Campfire coming this September 28th. Come revisit the early days of the island by setting your campsite outside of town and reminisce about what the Festival of the Campfire means to you. Turning to the weather, and after another long journey across the sky today, the sun will set and the temperatures will drop, bringing a 30% chance of corruption invasion along with it. One bout submitted for Simulated Fantasy Combat Resolution tonight, brought to you by LARPco. Remember, if it isn't LARPco, it's cardboard. Tonight, the Syndicate forces of Hammer of Dawn challenge the heavyweight champs of Nirvana for their championship title and the right to rule over Everfall. In the purple corner, weighing in at 50 strong, the forces of Hammer of Dawn fly a familiar banner and come to the ring, ready to test the legs of the reigning champions of Everfall. In the green corner, the recent heavyweight champions of Nirvana are going for their first hold since acquiring the region. But the Central Corridor powerhouse is not without experience. We'll have the outcomes and reactions from the citizens tonight at 11. Until then, this has been ring announcer JChalant, KOTT News. Hello, Eternum, and welcome to KOTT News, Eternum's #1 source for news. And this is the War Report. No change in the dynamic of Eternum last night as the champs hold out the 50-50 on Bravo for 20 minutes and retain their heavyweight championship belt. The champs dispersed quickly after last night's bout, but were unable to be interviewed. While in Everfall, KOTT News crews spotted more cases of stop motion in the throughways of the hamlet. More on this story as it develops. KOTT News would like to remind its subscribers of the second annual Festival of the Campfire coming this September 28th. Come revisit the early days of the island by setting your campsite outside of town and reminisce about what the Festival of the Campfire means to you. Turning to the weather, and the sun is starting to set sooner and sooner here in Eternum, but the corruption invasions tonight won't show up until close to midnight. 2 submissions for Simulated Fantasy Combat Resolution tonight, brought to you by LARPco. Remember, if it isn't LARPco, it's cardboard. First up, the Covenant forces of the Playhouse attack the Marauders of Nirvana for control of the medicinal hot springs of Ebonscale. Newcomers to the island, the Playhouse make their first official move, attempting to secure the hamlet in preparation of their pilgrimage to the Death Wall. But Nirvana forces don't let anyone just take land from them. In order to overcome the might of these marauders, it will take more than prayers. Then, the Syndicate forces of Trenhard Esports assault the vault in Windsward, attempting to steal the financial capital from the forces of Nirvana. The newcomers of Trenhard Esports make their first attempt to find a home on Eternum by securing the funding needed for their future ambitions. Nirvana forces won't be split, but they may be tired as their growth through the Central Corridor increases. So too will their Simulated Fantasy Combat commitments. We'll have any late-breaking outcomes and reactions from the citizens tonight at 11. Until then, this has been War Correspondent JChalant, KOTT News.